In a world flooded with misinformation and rapid economic and political shifts, what does real change look like? For this season of I Am Change podcast, we are cutting through the noise to unpack the forces shaping our societies, politically, economically, and socially. From governance and activism to economic justice and media influence, expect deep conversations, sharp analysis, with stories that spark action. Join the conversation. Follow us on Instagram at IamChangePod and on Twitter at IamChangePod. Share your insights with us using the hashtag IamChangePodcast, and let's build a movement together.
My name is Chidera. I am 26. I am a credit analyst. How does the availability of internet and power supply affect your daily life and productivity? I am going to use an analogy here. What breathing is to living is exactly what having access to internet and power supply is to my daily life and productivity. Without these things, I'm unable to function optimally. I'm not able to use my tools that help my credit work move smoothly. So these are things that really, it goes hand in hand. You cannot be living or trying to earn means and not have access to good internet and good power supply. So this is very much crucial to my work. It's also very crucial to my point and my stage of relaxation. So I think without these two things, internet and power supply, work is really is made slow. Work is made redundant.
My name is Tochi Nwebo. I'm currently 28 years old and I'm a social media manager. The availability of internet for me is a crucial necessity for our everyday life because basically as an individual, the internet is a basic necessity for me. Is a whether to go online to Google one or two things or to take courses online and just do the needful or basically just work from home because the internet is there. Since the internet came into inception in the early 2000s, I'm 100% sure that it has made life a lot more easy for a lot of people in terms of communication, in terms of your working life, in terms of everything. The internet basically affects every aspect of our daily lives.
From that response from Chidera and Tochi, I'm guessing you already know what direction this particular episode is going to take. Welcome to I Am Change podcast. I'm your host, Rafiat Akiwande. For the first episode of season 4, we take a look at the impact of internet and power supply on the productivity of the Nigerian youth. As of August 2024, Nigeria boasts of one of the largest youth populations in the world, with approximately 70% of its 160 million citizens being young individuals. In the face of high unemployment rates, many of these youths have turned to the internet as a means of generating income, be it through online shops, affiliate marketing, remote jobs, or even joining tech startups all across the world.
My name is Afistonova. I'm a photographer, a podcaster, a location sound mixer, and a digital strategist. 36 years. The internet and power supply is very, very useful to my daily life and productivity because most of the thing that I do, in fact, 90% of my work, it's online related. So power supply is very, very necessary, especially for, like I said, things that I do, digital marketing, podcasting, photography, so I need constant power supply and it affects my productivity in a way whereby I might want to do something, but probably because there's no lights, then it becomes a challenge whereby I have to wait, especially those moments where, maybe the system is dead and you need to edit either pictures or podcasts, or even you need to do one or two, writing and stuff like that. There are a lot of times whereby because there is no light, you're not productive enough to be able to do what you want to do. Because there's something about when you have light, there's just this, this spark that it brings out, in me when there is light. When I see light, I'm like, okay, yeah, I think I want to do this, I want to do that. But when there's no lights, it just makes everything a bit dull. And the same thing also, happens to the internet. I mean, internet is life, like this, like they used to say. So, I mean, you can go a whole day without being online and it feels like it's the end of the world. Like you literally don't know anything that is happening, or you don't have no idea what has happened in the other side of the world, or even with your next friend or something. So not also having access to internet or having great access to internet has really, affected my life a lot, because like I said, without internet, man no go fit job, man no go fit find also, man no go fit find work, especially when people will have to refer you, or when you have to apply for some freelance job, because I do a lot of freelancing. So yeah.
My name is Moidin Salil. I'm a freelancer, web developer, full stack engineer. But over the past couple of years, internet has become essential part of our lives. We sell things, we buy things, we do transactions, and a whole lot of things on the internet. And data is very primary for us to be able to gain access to the internet. So initially, I've been using mobile operators that we have in Nigeria. They have a universal wireless router that I use to switch in between them whenever one is not really giving me what I need. So I switch in between the three lines. So I really don't have any specific one that I can say as being a fully dedicated SIM card for internet. So internet has been a very important thing that requires, as a software developer, that I spend most of my time on the internet, pulling code requests into repositories, updating websites, downloading source codes, and a whole lot of things like that.
For Nigerian youths like Afistunova and Muidin, whose work relies solely on availability of internet and constant power supply, these are not just mere conveniences, these are lifelines. And when they encounter challenges that disturb their work, how do they handle this?
We are in Nigeria now, so why not? If not, every day is a challenge when it comes to internet and power supply. Like, which of the many challenges do we want to talk about? Is it the fact that we don't even have constant lights, especially for internet? Internet is even very, very, what is called it? It's very, very hard to overcome, because the only way to overcome internet is the fact that you still need internet. So let's say, for example, you're using one telecommunication company, right? And their internet service is down, right? The only thing for you to do is to get another one, another what they call it, another line or another telecom service to give you another internet. That's like the only thing that you need to do. So you have to that's why, you know, an average of every person in Nigeria has like 2 to 3 SIMs, because I mean, this one or that one. And then do we now even want to talk about the pricing that they just did recently that broke a lot of people's heart? Internet is very, very, I'm not going to lie, it's very, very expensive in this side of the world, which I feel it shouldn't be, but it is what it is anyway. It's like a daily challenge. There are times whereby you even want to do data and you don't even have enough money for you to do the data. Like, you don't have enough money and you have to eat at the same time you want to do data. So which one are you going to pick? So it's a daily challenge and we overcome it daily, like I said. But I think the major challenge has always been, when the network is down and the network is poor, and then you just have to look for another network provider to give you, a fast and quick internet service that you want. Recently, I was trying to work for a client and I needed the internet to do what I needed to do online. But trust me, the internet got me so frustrated that I had to literally do what is called a data plan on somebody else's internet service provider, so that I can be able to get the job that I need to get done, for the client. I overcome, like I said, they get lights every day. So it's the day that you have lights that you do what you need to do. And so the only way to overcome that is for you to go and buy petrol and on your gen, or if it is the phone you're using, you do for power bank, or you do solar or inverter. Those are the only ways you can overcome that. Just become your own electricity company and find a way to light up yourself and light up what you need to do. So yeah, that's just it basically.
Nigeria today, cost of everything has really affected everything. so including internet service and power supply. So early last year, I changed from Nigerian-based mobile network carrier to Starlink, and due to the fact that I was always getting frustrated due to poor network, so I obtained Starlink internet service, and I've been using that. That has been really serving me up till now. However, the current challenge that I'm having is steady power supply. Part of the reasons that informed my decision to stay in Mina is because Niger State has been a source of electricity in Nigeria. And during my undergraduate years at Federal University of Technology, Mina, I knew that that time there were steady power supplies, and we do have like up to 8 hours straight per day during that 2011, 2012 to 2013. So there were constant power supply, and I liked it. However, for the last 2 years, there have been a very big challenge with power supply. It's really affecting the way I work. For instance, I do my internet subscription for Starlink, and then I'm unable to make full use of it because right now we have more or less like 4 hours on, 8 hours off power supply. So we have, and it's really affecting the way we work, the way we deliver. Most of times I bank on my MTN solar panel for charging my, what's it called, my laptops, phones, and whatnot. However, the power output for the MTN solar panel is not enough to power the Starlink router. So in order to fix the problem of power supply, my aim is to get a complete off-grid solar system installed and then be able to fix the problem of power supply. But generally, power supply, electricity supply, and internet has become so essential.
Have you ever experienced challenges related to internet or power supply, and how did you overcome them? Plenty times, plenty times. So one very good thing is I live in a very good area where we have at least good amount of light. But days where they decide to not, to remind us that you can also not have light, it's very difficult. It's very irritating. I think recently the internet access has been really terrible. Whether you're using Fiber One, whether you're using MTN, it has been super terrible. So you'd have to deal with switching off and on, turning on data, turning off the data, going outside looking for a suitable spot, which of course are things that make your work slow. It makes productivity really, really slow. My experiences, my challenges related to this are so many times I've experienced things like this. I've had no light-ish case. I think the longest we've gone without light was, I think, 3 days. And those 3 days, you'd have to run on Gen. If you're anything like me, you have to find friends that actually do have inverters or something in their houses. And I think that's like basically one of the ways that I tend to overcome bad internet and bad power supply. Thank you.
When it comes to power supply, like in my area, you can basically not boost off if of 15 hours power supply. So that is a big issue on its own. When, as a country, we cannot boost off 15 hours power supply. You cook soup or you cook one or two things and then you refrigerate it and then it ends up spoiling because of the epileptic power supply. You want to watch your favorite television show, but you cannot access it because of the epileptic power supply. So the way we've been able to overcome that challenge in our house is by installing solar energy, getting all these solar panels and then getting batteries and then powering it. And then when there's no light, we use the solar. When there's light, the power supply powers the solar so that when there is no light, we can be able to make use of the solar. So that's like killing two birds with one stone. So that's what works for us. Solar energy as an alternative means of electricity to the NEPA electricity.
I'm sure that you can relate to the instances that Muideen, Afistonova, Chidera, and Tochi spoke about when it comes to the challenges of inconsistent power supply in Nigeria and how it affects their work. In 2024 alone, Nigeria's national grid collapsed at least 10 times. And in 2025, it has had a little disturbances here and there at least 2 or 3 times. Coupled with the skyrocketing prices of fuel and diesel, reaching as high as 1,000 naira per litre, these disruptions make it increasingly difficult for Nigerian youths to be productive and compete in a globally connected world. The Nigerian Communications Commission recently approved a 50% increase in telecommunication tariffs, marking the first significant adjustment in over a decade. According to them, this decision was made to address the financial strain on telecom operators caused by the rising operation cost, inflation, and currency devaluation being experienced in the country. Telecom's company had initially requested a 100% hike, but the NCC had settled on a 50% increase to balance industry sustainability with consumer affordability. But this particular move has come with its own mixed reactions and a lot of heavy burden on the youth. Listen to what Muideen, Mayowa, and Tochi have to say about this.
My name is Mayowa. In my late 30s, I'm a social media manager, writer, content creator. The availability of internet and power supply with respect to how it affects my productivity and daily life. The recent increase in tariff has really affected me in a way due to the fact that I now have to spend more in order to get work done. Yeah, that's basically it. In my area though, most of the networks are the speed of fair. It's just the increase in price that's affecting me currently. Sometimes I do have to resort to looking for work hubs. That's if I'm not at work. Because most times if I'm at work, I use work internet, of course. So the challenges are just what I stated. Power supply issues. That's if I'm at home during the weekend. Probably have some deliverables. That's power supply issues. But power has been stable recently. I think the core issue is just increasing data tariff. How I overcome them? I have two network, Airtel and MTN, so I shuffle. Sometimes one might be down, one might be up, so I try to do that so that work won't suffer, and I try to search for discounts. So once you download the apps, there are discounts that works for you, packages that you just look for the package that works for you, depending on how heavy of a user you are. So basically, that's that. Thank you very much.
Current cost of things are really affecting the way we work, and it's affecting our business. So sometimes when you inform the clients that this is the cost for this, it gives them some kind of drop down. Thank you.
My name is Tochi. I'm currently 28 years old and currently a social media manager. Recently, the telecommunication increased their data price. So basically, before you could get data for 600 naira, okay, the least 2 gig, 600 naira. But right now, 2 gig, 900 naira. Now, bear in mind that initially there were a lot of people that could not afford that 2 gig for 600 naira. Now, what now happens when now they've increased it to 2 gig for 900 naira? It's just absolutely crazy. The high cost of data is a big challenge on its own. And then when you end up getting that data, you discover that some of these networks just provide you with an epileptic internet speed. Your phone is 4 gig, your phone is 5 gig, but it's not operating at that level. It's operating on an E level. So these are challenges that as individuals you experience when it comes to the internet. So in my own way, how I'm able to overcome them is, okay, basically I go for cheaper data that I can afford. And then when I end up buying this data, probably when I go to work, I augment with my office Wi-Fi. And then when I get home, I know that that's when I can use my data. So that data I purchase will end up lasting for me over the period of time I want to use it. So that is what works for me.
To further understand and elaborate on how internet access and consistent power supply affects the productivity of Nigerian youth, especially for those who are into remote jobs, I also spoke with Charity Ekezie, a renowned Nigerian TikToker and journalist. who I am sure has experienced this issue firsthand. Charity has captivated millions with her humorous and insightful content that challenges stereotypes and misconceptions about Africa. With over 3.4 million followers on TikTok, she's become a powerful voice for young Africans, using humor and sarcasm to educate and entertain. Charity's journey is a testament to the resilience and creativity of the Nigerian youth. In a country where unreliable internet and power supply are daily challenges, she's risen above these obstacles. But how was she able to do it? Listen to my interview with her. My very first question for you is, how would you say the internet has influenced your journey to becoming a content creator?
I think one of the biggest things it's really done for me is that it has been able to push my message, not just to Africa and Africans, but my message has actually been able to touch multiple parts of the world that you will never even expect that you can achieve or you can get to. Some of my followers across my platforms are mostly in the US and the UK, Canada, Germany, Philippines, like even China. There was a time I was trending in China for a week. So it's so amazing how the world has become a small global village that with just your phone and good internet, you can reach anywhere in this world and pass a message and people can relate to it and definitely give you positive feedback. So yeah, it's been helpful.
Thank you very much. I love that you explained how much of what you do is not just for Africans, it's also for like a global audience. So if there was no something like the internet to be able to connect to that global audience, I wonder what that would look like. So let's talk about the average Nigerian youth. Because of the work that you do, I'm sure you've been able to interact with people from all parts of the world, including youth from all parts of the world as well. How would you say that internet plays into the productivity of a Nigerian youth?
To be honest, I don't think 15, 20 years ago, we needed to rely on the internet so much to be able to succeed in various courses of our lives. Everybody was just like, okay, we're going to just stick to getting a 9 to 5. And if it doesn't work, well, we're going to try and get businesses and hustle and go do one-on-one marketing and stuff like that. The internet now made it easier. The coming of platforms like Instagram kind of made it easy for people to be able to sell themselves wherever they are across the country, and people will still see what they are selling and be able to, of course, reach out to them. Of course, we know what we're dealing with in Nigeria concerning jobs and job security anyway for youths. So yeah, creating these platforms, well, generally it was meant for entertainment, but then people were smart enough to use it for their own benefits, to push their businesses, to drive sales, to get people to see who they are. For those that are actors, they've used the platform to act and get seen and noticed by big acting companies. People that can sing have gotten a lot of brand deals because of the fact that they just use their phones to perform something random and post on the internet. So yes, the internet has actually really been helpful for us African youths, especially Nigerian youths, to be able to showcase ourselves and reach farther. Probably wouldn't have been able to do 20 years ago. And it's evolving. So it's really evolving and it's definitely helpful. And it's definitely helping us Nigerian youths to be able to at least have somewhere to have a voice, not just have a voice, but also be able to make a living, to be honest.
Every single point that you raised is very valid. I mean, the job market is not the easiest in Nigeria. So a lot of youth have turned to the internet to either market their creativity, either market their product, either market whatever it is that they want to market, So having internet access plays a major role, and you've been able to highlight the different ways in which it's important. You're a content creator with over 3.4 million followers. It means that you constantly have to be online. And that means you constantly have to have internet access.
Yes.
Are there times where unreliable internet connectivity has sort of stifled your creativity or you putting out a particular work or job or something?
Where do I start from? This is not even instances. There are like a gazillion of instances. In the past, I had so much difficulty probably just uploading one content to YouTube, for example, because the internet is so slow and then it has to consume so much data. And then probably the data is not even enough. They will tell me, oh, you have unlimited data, and then the data kind of finishes and you're wondering what the unlimited was all about. I've had instances where it took me forever to be able to download something that I needed, communicate even with brand personnel that have reached out to me to have a meeting. And then I'm on my meeting and then it's like, can you hear me? Can you not hear me? Can you see me? It's just been so embarrassing. At some point, I had to like say enough is enough. I've switched to Starlink, my sister. I had to go by Starlink because I was like, it's so embarrassing at this level of or stage of career to still be dealing with poor internet, to still be communicating with brands, and then I have to take excuses, or having a meeting, Zoom meeting with other colleagues of mine that work like within a project that we are trying to do, and then my internet is off. Like, where do I even begin? It's been crazy. It's been a crazy ride. And for me, of course, getting a Starlink was not a cheap buy, but I had to do it for my own job. The content creating is my job, and I need to always be on the internet, like you said. And for me, I felt like it was a good business idea or a good business investment for me to go purchase a Starlink so that I will never have to deal with horrible internet and horrible internet access anymore.
Wow. Honestly, I remember coming across a thread on Twitter and people were talking about how they lost out on remote jobs because they're like, man, your internet speed is just not it. Or situations where, they had even gotten the job, they were on the job, and because, one particular network provider is misbehaving today or misbehaving tomorrow, the team tells them, I'm sorry, we don't think we can continue to work with you. And I read that trend and I felt so much pain in my heart because this were Nigerian youths trying to reach across the border to, end something, do something. And it just feels like the situation wasn't enough.
Before I purchased my Starlink, between last year and last 2 years, I have bought 4 different kinds of Wi-Fi. There's MiFi and there's Wi-Fi. I have different products from different brands, different internet providers. There are sometimes I've had to go sit down outside my house for a meeting just because my internet was so bad inside the house. It's been very crazy. So I know how horrible. Talking about it, if I'm frustrated, I'm too frustrated to even, to even talk about it. It's very frustrating remembering what I had to do.
I can definitely feel your frustration. And I know there are a lot of Nigerian youths who are right where you are. Hence why I wanted to have this conversation on the podcast. So something I wanted to also talk about, because this particular episode is not just about internet access, it's also about the Obonge power supply that we have in Nigeria.
It's not perfect because these are things I've dealt with.
Last year alone, the national grid collapsed more than 9 times, if I remember correctly. And being somebody who works remotely, because I would say that your job is remote, you do your thing here and then it sends out to the world, which is where a lot of Nigerian youths are driving towards, wanting to have a remote job and all of that. We've talked about the internet. What about the inconsistent power supply? How have you dealt with that? What have you done? How have you managed that?
I think this happened to me in March, and in June last year, I was like, enough is enough. I actually had a meeting already scheduled with a company I was supposed to do. I think it was a United Nations NGO I was supposed to do a job for, and we're supposed to meet. Then the power grid collapsed. It happened nationwide. There was this particular time last year, I think February or March, didn't have power for almost a week. They kept complaining that something was wrong in the national grid, and then they had to fix it. For like a week, I think almost a week, I think 3 to 5 days, there was no power. Babe, I had to go and message these people, email them and say, I am really sorry. We cannot do this meeting. We need to reschedule. And mind you, these people had the deadline for when they needed their stuff to be done. I was so infuriated that I said, you know what? I'm done with this rubbish. And I went to buy solar panels and again, it wasn't a small buy. I spent millions of naira just to be able to have constant power supply. So in my mind, I'm like, this is an investment in my business because I cannot be losing money on brand deals and brand collaborations just because I don't have power. For 1 week, I had to move out of my house to go stay somewhere so that I could be productive. And that place had to run gen for me for hours on end throughout the day. It just literally made me save up everything I had made for the year. I went to buy solar panels, install solar panels in my house, got extra batteries for just in case. And right now, it's really been helping me. So anytime there's no light, it's fine. I can still run my job and my stuff during the day, especially when the sun is hot. And at night, I'll just, of course, use my remaining battery power life to sustain myself. So it's been really, really crazy. Let's not even talk about times when I will be live, because sometimes too, I have to go live to talk to my own audience, and then the power will just cut off and everywhere will be dark. Or times when I'm even in a meeting and then the power went off and then I had to tell them, so I'm so sorry, sir. Can I quickly grab like a torchlight on my face so that you can see me? And then they're like, no, Charity, it's okay. We can see, just open a window. It is so embarrassing. So yes, seriously, power supply has also been one of the biggest problems aside internet that I've faced as a content creator and a remote worker.
I think you've kind of highlighted most of the issues. I'm sure even if I bring 10 different Nigerian youth onto the podcast to talk, they would have very similar experiences to what you've said. They'll have very similar, solutions to how they've been able to manage and go about it. So I think at this point, you've become a global voice for not just Nigerians, but like youth all across the world. What do you think has to change in the power infrastructure as well as the internet providers for young Nigerians like you are not left with this kind of bitter experience?
They should just improve everything. Improve in the telecom sector. Improve their output on the electricity sector. The technicalities of it, I don't know. I don't know what they need to do, but they need to work on these. Because having the internet and being on the internet or having the opportunity for Nigerian youths to be able to be productive online without having to rely on regular 9-to-5 jobs is actually a good thing for the economy. I don't know why the Nigerian government is not even trying to make this work for us, because at the end of the day, they cannot provide enough jobs for us locally. So why don't you now beef up what we need to make it easier for us to be able to still develop the economy, still be productive to our society by just giving us the basic necessities? We shouldn't be in this day and age still begging for constant power supply and good internet access. We shouldn't be. If there is a regulatory body that can come and step in and say, okay, you need to, or we are taking this away, step up. Like, make sure that in areas where you know that internet is actually really lacking, they should go put more masts there. They should go beef up those areas, because a lot of times you see youths, especially very young, upcoming young adults, on these social media platforms expressing themselves and bringing in income for themselves. If you don't give us the basic necessities like internet and constant power supply, how do you expect these youths to be productive? Meanwhile, you don't have any backup plan to mass employ these people when they are done with school. So the world is turning into a much more digital space right now. People are mostly going into content creating now as a source of living. Some people are also taking remote jobs from outside the country as a source of living. And guess what? If they are getting paid, the money is coming back to the economy, thereby boosting the economy. So providing better internet access and good power supply shouldn't even be a question. So that's why we also need a lot of youth in the government to actually really drive these points and let these people know that these are things that we need. Because again, having most people that are not within our age range in government is not helping, because they really don't know what we need. They give us what they think we need. They don't give us what we actually need. So we need youths in government. If they are going to get somebody, young person that is going to be in that sector and just try to tell them exactly what we need done, fine. But yeah, these are the basic things that need to be done. Of course, now we even know that prices of internet have skyrocketed and people are complaining. It's not just even about creating content or having remote jobs. It's also about communicating with people for your business. People use places like WhatsApp to advertise their local businesses. When they don't have the internet to do that, how does it grow? How do they thrive? So for me, I feel there should really be a regulatory body set up to monitor this, and they should definitely do so much to work on fixing the power supply sector. And if private companies can come up and also even reduce the prices of solar panels, reduce the prices of solar power, because if you're giving us alternative power supply, then why don't you make it cheaper so that people can actually really have these things at their fingertips to be able to thrive? Those are my own suggestions and my own point of view. But again, we know the country we're living in, so let's see how it goes.
Thank you so much. I think the thing is, we have to continue talking about them. Yes, we know the country that we live in, but we have to continue talking about them. And I was glad that you brought up the increase, because yes, the NCC, which I think is a regulatory body in charge of letting them increase prices and all of that. Yeah, they ask them to increase the price. But if you're increasing your price, is your network reliable? If I'm paying more, am I getting money for service? When I was paying you small, I did not even get value for service. Because if you are telling me that you need more, it means that you've shown that you've actually been reliable. But you just said it now. All network providers, you had to dump them or go for an external internet provider. So it doesn't make any sense.
Saying about the regulatory bodies like NCC, for example, I understand that they told them to increase the price rates, but the regulatory body should also give standard rules. Like if you're going to increase that so and so this thing, make sure that your internet is at least so and so percent strong. You are making sure that you're getting value for what you're paying for. Don't just say increase the price and then they run and increase it without any detailed enforcement of values. If most of these internet providers had like this kind of, if you don't do this, we're taking this away mindset, they will sit up.
I completely agree with you. And, like we talk about wanting to strengthen the Naira and we talk about earning Forex. Most people would be able to earn this Forex with peace of mind if we just have these two basic things done. Especially a lot of Nigerian youth. Like we have a lot of Nigerian youth who content creation, people who work in tech, people who work remotely. If the companies cannot even hire them because they are not sure of their internet speed and they are not sure of their access to power supply, how are we going to end the Forex? We can't rely on all these other commodities for long. And it's so interesting because more than 70% of Nigeria's population is the youth. So honestly, I've really, really enjoyed speaking to you. I enjoy the passion with which you spoke. I know that you were the best person to bring on for this because you have all the first-hand experiences with all of these things, and it was good. Thank you so much again, Charity. I really appreciate it. That was definitely something. Thank you for joining us on this episode of I Am Change podcast. Today, we explored the impact of power supply and internet access on the productivity of the Nigerian youth. From the personal struggles shared by everyday individuals to the inspiring resilience of my guest, Charity Ekezie, who is a renowned TikToker and journalist. These stories remind us of the challenges that we face, but then again, introduces the creativity that we employ in rising above them. If you've got your own story to share, we'd definitely love to hear it. Reach out to us on our social media platforms, Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook, and use the hashtag IamChangePodcast, and it will be very interesting to read your thoughts. Subscribe to this podcast wherever you're listening. Share this episode with someone who might relate, and tune in next time as we uncover more untold stories of Nigerian resilience and innovation. Thanks for listening.